Well, thank you for having me. I do think that the state of the nation really reflected what's priority at the moment within the country, and indeed, from the tourism point of view, the only two things that I would say affect us. Number one is the issue around the e-visa system, but I must mention that the e-visa system was mentioned at the 2019 State of the Nation address. It's 2 years later now. We should have had this system working. We should be, talking to the world now to say that we are open for business, and we do have an e-visa system that people can utilize, to boost tourism. So that's one thing that was mentioned. We do hope that we get it done, and we introduce it to the world when we reopen tourism, especially for international travelers. We do have countries around the world that would like to come to South Africa, especially China, India. There are many people that are travelers, but our visa regime for those countries are not conducive for them to travel to the country. Another thing that may be positive for us is the issue of extension of the UIFTS program. We have been working through the NEDLAC processes to highlight how tourism has been affected, and the fact that this lockdown that comes in, where liquor is closed, beaches are closed, rivers are closed, and so forth and so on, does have a negative impact on tourism, and therefore employees are now sitting at home. And if we can have an assistant for our employees that are sitting at home, because some of the hotels have not even opened, it will be helpful for us. So those two things are quite critical for us, but there's more that could have been mentioned, and we do hope that when the budget votes come, the ministers will clarify. We'll get to understand how much the budget for tourism is going to be. We do know that last year the budget for tourism was cut by about 41%. So we are hopeful that we will get to see the details in terms of how government is going to be supporting tourism, and how it's going to be supporting tourism businesses, and also the employees within our sector.
Yeah. Look, when the president did say that there are four main issues he wants to focus on for his State of the Nation address, the first would be defeating the COVID-19 pandemic, and then, of course, hot on the heels of that, first priority is economic reform, job creation, infrastructure build. In terms of economic reform, given how much the tourism sector does contribute to GDP, it should be higher up on the agenda, surely.
No, absolutely. Look, we have been highlighting the fact that, number one, from the recovery point of view, we have to really look at the government guarantee loan scheme. Tourism businesses are not going to be recovering in the next 2 months or 3 months or 6 months. We have to take a view of a medium term to long term to ensure that the businesses are held in a long term. We've always rebounded. So we need to relook at the government guarantee loan scheme to make sure that it's more accessible to tourism businesses, especially entrepreneurs who want to stay in this business for long term. In terms of the vaccine, what's beneficial for us, should we start the vaccination program now, and should we be successful, it means that the northern hemisphere that's already vaccinating their citizen will feel comfortable traveling to South Africa, and therefore we should be able to recover. So the vaccination and the economic recovery is very much interlinked, because if we don't vaccinate, we will not recover from the tourism point of view anytime soon. So that's why that part is quite critical for us, and also to look into how do we prioritize the tourism value chain, especially the frontline staff within the tourism businesses who are going to be receiving these guests. And of course, like you said, the guests come here, they boost the economy. And you are quite right. Indeed, tourism is one of the top 3 export earners in this country. And therefore, it needs to be prioritized. It needs to be given more attention. But to give it more attention from a speech is just a speech. We need to get the visa done. And we need to make sure that the loan guarantee scheme, the government guarantee scheme, is accessible to tourism businesses. We need to make sure that the tourism supply side is supported, and we need to make sure that the employees are supported. If we don't do those things, we won't have any tourism to talk of. So I think that those are critical. And one last thing. The brand of this country, then the whole management of South Africa Inc. is important in terms of positive images, across the world. If we don't manage the brand of this country, if we don't manage the messaging, we have been talking about the so-called South African variant to say that it's not South African variant, it's COVID-19 variant. We need to be careful not to stigmatize ourselves, and we need to go out there in the world and make sure that everyone around the world understand that there is no such thing as South African variant. It is a COVID COVID-19 variant. We happen to, discover it here because we've got brilliant scientists in the country, and it may have been, in many other countries around the world, and someone could have brought it here. So we need to be careful. We need to manage our brand. We need to make sure that we're sending positive messages, and we need to make sure that we can attract the tourists and investment into this country.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talked about the fact that the tourism industry is not going to recover in the next month, 2 months, 3 months. Some saying not in the next 3 years. We're now building up to, as you say, we have the State of the Nation address. Less than 2 weeks later, we look forward to the budget speech by the Finance Minister in the National Assembly. What are you hoping to hear from Tito Mboweni?
Well, we do need the budget for tourism to return. We do need to maintain our presence in the international markets. Many countries, have been maintaining their communication, have been saying positive things about what they're doing within their own countries. And we need to do the same. We need to make sure that we remain top of mind. If we don't remain top of mind, other countries, will be there, and tourists have a whole lot more, to choose from. Tourism is a very competitive business, and we shouldn't think that, people are just waiting to come to South Africa. What we have seen now is that there is more inquiries to go to East Africa than to come to Southern Africa. So it means that we have a whole lot of work ahead of us, and we need to make sure that, the positivity of the brand is there. And we need to make sure that we are understanding the new customer, out there. And also we're understanding what is it that they're looking for so that we can gear up here at home to ensure that, we have the facilities and we also have the trust that, they need. So it's important that, for us, we remain ready, and the budget for tourism is there to support all the programs that we've been doing in tourism. And it's important to understand that, tourism is an income earner. We have a positive trade balance. If you look at, the money that we earn coming from overseas and South African traveling, overseas. In 2018, we had a 40 billion rand positive trade balance. So we are a good industry to invest in. And again, we're not going to recover anytime soon. So it may be 3, maybe 4 years, but we always recover. We've seen this with September 11. We've seen this with Ebola. We've seen this with wars and many different diseases that have come by. We always survive, we always bounce back, and we will bounce back from this. And we need investment into the future, and we need to be looked at as a long-term investment. There's a lot of opportunity in tourism. We haven't even scratched the surface in terms of tourist arrival in this country.
Yeah, absolutely. Tshifhiwa Tshivengwa, thanks very much for coming on to the AM Report. He's the CEO of the Tourism Business Council. The recovery of the sector so very closely linked to the country's economic recovery.